Viva. And one thing that I want to point out is, at our last meeting, we talked about our strategic plan. And one of the items in our strategic plan is to make sure that we have local companies pitch. It's most of the companies that have pitched to the Angel Network have come from San Antonio or Houston or Austin, and not enough have been coming from the Valley. And so it is our goal and our mission to be able to have more companies pitch from the Valley. And tonight, we have Michael, who is from the Valley, and his startup is here in the Valley. So Viva helps landlords earn 9% more net income by offering cash rewards to motivate and reward residents who take better care of their home and community. Renters' cash rewards accumulate in an interest-bearing account to help them kickstart a generational wealth journey. Michael has invested more than $100,000 in Viva overall, and through February 2022 was an unpaid employee. He is the former CEO and co-founder of Teacher Talent, a SaaS platform for K-12 education recruiting and hiring, which exited via acquisition just 16 months after raising money from Techstars, among others. Michael is committed to leveraging tech to create private sector solutions to ensure greater equity for all. Prior to founding Viva and Teacher Talent, Michael served as a classroom teacher in the Rio Grande Valley, recruited via Teach for America, a school district leader, and an educational researcher, PhD from UT Austin. Congratulations. He also holds a master's in computer science from the University of Texas, Rio Grande Valley, and completed a full-stack JavaScript course led by his current CTO via the Austin Coding Academy. Using proceeds from the Teacher Talent exit, Michael also created the Radical Equity Fund, which advises and invests in diverse teams pursuing social impact ventures. Michael is blessedly married to the amazing Chriselle?
Chriselle.
All right, I got it. I'm known, and I say this every meeting, I'm known for butchering names. And so I'm glad that I got it. Chriselle
Navalta.
Barnes, and has 3 free-spirited children, Glory Iris, Roberto Jesus, and Michael Jr. He loves ultimate frisbee, improv, spoken word poetry, making lattes at home, and carrying on a family tradition of drawing cartoons and animation. Please welcome Michael Barnes.
Thanks everyone, I appreciate the warm welcome. I really appreciate the bio, but I'll speak a little bit more to the fact that I am from the Rio Grande Valley. I moved around a lot as a kid. I never lived anywhere more than 4 years, but then when I got here in 2006 through Teach for America, I never really moved again, so there must be something in the water. And as Lori said, I spent 7 years teaching in Ed Cauchelsa, La Máquina Maria, up in the Delta area. And what inspired me was the fact that students can achieve tremendous things, but sometimes adults get in the way, right? And what happened is my guiding North Star for my first part of my career was impact. But I learned the hard way that our local education, our state and federal government, where I spent time managing grants and running schools, has certain issues that make it hard to innovate if you haven't learned this, right? And even nonprofit, a lot of times you create beautiful things. I was part of the early Code RGV project to help create software engineers here in the Rio Grande Valley, and one of those later became my co-founders. And sometimes you create a beautiful thing in a nonprofit, but the funding sources don't follow you. So I ended up in the private sector seeking refuge, right? From the inability to create value, which equals money, and then to redeploy the money to keep creating value. That's my goal, to use private sector capital to innovate and create solutions to pressing problems. And I was excited in 2013 to join a PSJA All-Star graduate that Dr. King I'm sure knows, Joanna Sanchez, a Millennium Gates scholar, so proud product of this area. But she was one of my 5 cohort members in my PhD program. And I think the Valley is a beautiful place, and we need to continue to celebrate investing in our Rio Grande Valley. But I had the good fortune of going to Austin. I had the good fortune of getting into Techstars with my first company. We helped schools recruit and hire teachers. We pitched to this angel group, if anyone recalls, back in 2017, 2018. And then we sold our company, and I went from being a starving entrepreneur and starving teacher to having, you know, accredited investor status, and rewarding my wife for swiping her 10K in life savings, and got to sit on the other side of the table. And what happened was, you know, we created a solution to an important problem. And Dr. King, if anyone needs that, we actually retained the IP through mergers and acquisitions. So we solved an important problem, how to recruit and hire a teacher to find the best teacher for a school. But it was hard, to be honest. In K-12, we didn't want to take money from schools. We certainly didn't want to take money from teachers. So sometimes you're given a gift and you decide to apply it in a different domain. Because more so than even education, housing is one of the major crises for our communities, and it impacts things like education. And I had the chance recently to go to the Bill, Hillary, and Chelsea Clinton Foundation in New York City. I was chosen as one of 19 entrepreneurs from across the world to talk about the very problem and solution we're going to discuss today, which is what we call the renter wealth equity gap. This is what my academic research and education couldn't touch in the K-12 space, but something we all know very well if we're in touch with our communities. The average renter, the median renter in America, has only $6,000 in net wealth. The median homeowner, $255,000. That is a 40 times wealth disparity that begets health disparities, education inequities. But when people say renter, renters, they forget to mention we're talking about a majority of our Black and Mexican American, Hispanic, brown households, right? As well as a majority of our lower income quartile earners and 69% of single moms. So when you hear renter out there, I want you to put that away and from now on say, we don't just have a renter issue, we have a racial, economic, and gender wealth equity gap that is a crisis. And it's even worse now than at any point in the previous few decades. Because, as you know, inflation's been going up, but one of the few things going up faster than inflation is rent. Double-digit annual percentage. That's faster than wages, which means guess what? People can't even stay in the same place. They're moving behind. They're getting further away from affordability of housing. What we do is we come in and we address the problem by introducing a new concept that we piloted ourselves here in the Rio Grande Valley. If landlords invest residents through rewards, they'll actually make the property more valuable, and we'll talk about that a bit. It's kind of like in the 1900s, this crazy idea that if you invest in your employees, they make the corporation more successful. For a similar reason, by taking care of them, they're able to be more productive and contribute to the overall enterprise. And we call this a rent to invest amenity. Right now, there are people out there, if you've ever been a landlord, and most of our team, we're landlords, because what you learn is people make their money in tech, and then they park it in real estate, right? So if you've been a landlord, you know your fear is something goes wrong, liability, right? But what happens is you hoard cash to avoid this worst case scenario of somebody not paying their rent, of having to go through an eviction, of having to go through a rent moratorium, as we know, right? And the difference is if you're a good renter, you pay the exact same price. Well, that's kind of weird. We already have insurance, driver's insurance, where if you are a safe driver, you save money because you've saved the company money. So what we're really doing is saying, if you give people a reason to care about your property, and you reward and incentivize their best behavior, they're going to make you money and you're going to reward them with a piece of the profit. And that's what we do. We take, if you've ever seen a lease, signed a lease, written a lease, there's dozens and dozens of legal provisions that are binding that nobody ever reads again, nobody ever reads the first time. And what we do is we actually bake them into a gamified app where it pops up right away and says, if it saves you money, if people pay rent on time when they auto sign up their bank account, well, let's do it right off the bat, and we'll give them a piece of your projected savings from that effort, right? And what we found is renters in our own apartments, because when we started this, they were like, Michael, show me your portfolio and I'll let you play with mine. So we actually bundled our own money, that's part of the $100,000 I invested, and we bought our own apartments to deploy this model and learn from it before we built the technology. And we found that you could give residents up to 8% of each month's rent as a reward, and the property became more profitable. If you look at our units side by side with ones built at the same time in the same street, ours still look Class A, brand new. The others look really old. Because when people don't have a reason to care about where they live, it shows, and we've seen that. Our residents go above and beyond. We had to create badges because they got so excited to protect security, to take care of their yard, to take stellar care of their property, that we were able to turn a unit. If somebody had to go to Wisconsin to work, and we didn't have a unit for them, they would hand the key in the last day of their lease, and we could clean it within a single day, and then hand it to someone else because it was that pristine condition. That creates 0% theoretical vacancy, which makes our profits more and more and more. So renters love it, of course. We say 8% means what? At the end of a year, you can get almost a full month's rent back in a virtual account that actually earns interest. Because, of course, we've become masters of technology. We know how to use the modern financial technologies to make that possible. It's not hard, but it hasn't been done. Where now you can say, I save money, and it goes into an interest-bearing account to start me on a wealth journey so I can own a home. In fact, as we'll talk about in a minute, some of our early renters are already landlords, able to become part of our platform. And for landlords, we did what we wanted. We created a CRM that lets you monitor your portfolio and see that your occupancy is going higher because people really want to live there, because you're actually serving their core interests and needs, the ability for prosperity. You're getting new leads. We have wait lists because people can't build wealth in any other rental scenario. So they call us and say, is there anything open? I'll sign a pre-lease today. That's not even legal if we don't have a unit. But they want to sign up today if they can. And then we have a proprietary Viva score, which is the health of that community. How invested are people, and are they earning all their rewards? And if not, what does that mean about what we can do to fix that community? So for landlords, this means that we increase demand, decrease vacancy, and bend the economic curve of what's possible in rental. This is astounding. When we took our portfolio and we went to B2B operators with 1,000 or more units, some of them realized the power that if we can save them what we projected from our own pilots, 9% in increased income, it's just like a corporation that understands why it's valuable to invest in your employees. They get it. And that means, someone told me, we got educated by our customers. They said, Michael, if my property becomes more profitable, I can refinance and cash out that money and deploy it elsewhere. So we're actually still leaving money on the table, as we'll talk about in a minute. But we get educated by our customers. And just examples, Jacob was one of those early renters. This is literally grabbed from my own text message with him, where immediately I'm saying, congratulations on going from a renter and a veteran to owning your own duplex, which was his dream. We asked him, what is your goal? And then immediately trying to recruit him to be a landlord on the platform, right? To create that full circle. And then Sylvia is a totally different project. She was facing foreclosure, and we acquired her unit to wipe out the debt and let her build back her wealth over 10 years so she can not avoid retirement, so she can actually retire in peace. We've done innovative things that are groundbreaking, because if you can help people build wealth while renting, you can address affordability issues as well as home ownership issues. And she's actually locked into a 10-year lease at 67% of market rate. That's unheard of, right? And she can talk to you if you want. And what we find is if you just take 8%, that ceiling that we set of each month's rent and rewards, and compound it with interest earned over 30 years, if they never bought a house, they can close the wealth equity gap. They can get to $250,000 through compound interest over 30 years just from renting. That's math. We've got the math tables to prove it for those of you out there who want to see it. That was an exciting 4 hours one night. And the thing is, we're not just creating a better way to get into a home, we're creating something that young people and lots of folks will enjoy. A chance to build wealth even if you're mobile. And I'll talk more about that in questions, but I want to make sure we do make money. Up to $200 per door. Why? Because when you're saving money for someone, you, working with banking partners, get a percentage of the interest of that money you're holding. And when we park that money in interest-bearing assets, we get a percentage commission for those interest-bearing assets, which means what? We don't have to weigh heavily on our landlord's balance sheets. We can go in there and negotiate very affordable charges for creating profit, and we profit when our renters build wealth. This is key. We're not a charity. We're a free market solution that creates wealth and profits when our renters build wealth by creating profits for our landlords. One of our anchor partners, NYCE, out of New York, we have 1,800 units that we're growing through the turn of the year. These are great partners that we work with that help us by the end of this year get to 1,600 doors, more than 200,000 in aggregate ARR. That's a 200% increase in this year alone. And next year we hope with our partners to get to 10,000 plus doors from New York City all the way to Texas. So we have a lot of different partners. We can talk about competition. My team, if anyone knows Lee Jinks from the Valley, Jinks Realty, he's been here 25 years. He was one of the first people that I brought to the table because if I could convince him, who had been doing real estate for a long time, I could convince anyone. And if you invest today, which we can talk about our terms, you can join these amazing investors like the Atlanta Technology Angels that have already invested, as well as some other folks up here. So I'll pause and give you a chance to go to questions.
Thank you. That was great. Any questions for Michael?
So what are you going to do with money?
Yes.
You need new money.
Correct. So the new money goes, for example, this team right now. We have a lot of people that have made money with me before, and they're actually co-investors in Viva. Like my CTO he invested in Viva, so he's not taking money out on salary, but we should bring him on full time. And he won't charge much. He's like, Michael, just give me 10K as a salary, right? So we want to migrate some of our partners who are working with us every day to official employee status. We have a very lean burn of just about $25,000 a month for a total of 12 contractors and a few employees. So we want to be able to grow our team to capture that potential, to go from 1,600 units to 10,000 units. Capturing all the amazing people and keeping them in our team and rewarding them is one of our primary goals.
And how many doors do you have to be cash flow positive?
Yeah, so it's one of those things where we can be cash flow positive in 3 to 6 months, but of course we're going to want to capture more opportunity. So what I can always show you, it's actually in the deal room that I shared with Lori. You can see that we've got this triangulation of we make money today, we could level off if we wanted. Most of what our burn is designed to grow to new doors. So we are in a good position cash-wise. It could be easily more than $2 million in 2023. Yes?
Does this also work for multifamily housing, or is it predominantly for single-family duplexes, that kind of thing?
Yeah, it's actually primarily for multifamily, only because when we started this, we talked to a lot of people who were like us, small portfolio owning landlords, and they need a heck of a lot more than a lightweight amenity to motivate renters. They need a lifeboat, a life raft, and many of them aren't even counting the fact that they're losing their shirt and not admitting it. So we actually focused on multifamily for now because one relationship can beget 1,800 doors or 10,000 doors. And we find that they actually prefer having a lightweight amenity versus duplicating all their existing technology.
Do you have an exit strategy?
I do, yes. This one I want to hold on to for a long time. So our plan is actually to go IPO, or what a modern IPO is. You would use something that has some constraints on short term. It's basically called a DAO, a DAO, which is where in 10 years the community could own the actual entity. And it prevents short-term cyclical public market effects. Because what if you get to $1 billion in net wealth and you get to more than 1 million users? Well, you don't want to burn the whole thing down because you don't happen to make 25% more the next year. So there's actually mechanisms that take out some of the volatility of the long-term markets, to answer the question honestly. We have about 7 to 10 years to figure it out. Yes.
17 years?
7 to 10 years.
Okay.
7 to 10 years. Yeah. But by the way, the valuation we're offering today, which closes at the end of approximately this month, is $8 million post money. When we raise our seed in the first quarter of 23, we hope to do it at $16 million plus. So we do return steady on paper returns as we grow. Yes.
So you said $8 million post money, how much are you trying to raise?
Yeah, so we have about $200,000 in allocation that we can still offer.
How much total are you raising?
Oh, so the total is about $500,000.
And what's your revenue inception today?
Yeah, so we should be at 200,000. Sorry, it's not the slide, but 200,000 this year. About 292,000 from 2021 to 2022.
My understanding is when people get into the real estate, it's good if they get 10% of their whatever they put into it. If you buy $100,000 house, if they get $10,000 a year, they're happy. But you're saying you're giving 9% back to, so there is nothing going to be left for them.
Yeah, so in multifamily, it's a little bit different. Usually, first of all, you're levering. So we don't deal directly with the ownership of the multifamily. That's our B2B partners. But typically, it's a good, and it's on our website, if you're earning 54% net operating income, that's a healthy amount. That's the National Apartment Association average. So unlike a traditional single-family homeowner small portfolio, multifamily uses leverage and very small amounts of equity so that they can create about 54% is the average in net operating income. If you take that to 60%, that's a 9% increase. So you're basically making them 9% more income net because they're investing in their residence. And we do that through taking the average occupancy from 95% in a good building to 98%. We're able to kind of bend the curve of how much money they can make, and that's where they see a lot of their profits.
One other question. It kind of reminds me of these furniture stores, they rent to own type of situation. Are you also looking at the same strategy?
No, there are people that do that in market. The problem is when you're getting into the underlying asset, then you have issues, because what if somebody does need to move within a year, right? So what we're doing is creating a network that's just like multifamily, but you're investing people while they're there. So just like employees, they might shift companies, but they do get benefits because it motivates and rewards and invests them when they're there. So think about it as like an employee reward system, but for renters.
What are some examples of the kind of things that you're incenting people to do?
Yeah, so some of the common ones are, of course, signing up auto pay for your bank, so you set it and forget it, and then you have very little issues paying your rent on time. That's a huge money saver. Another one is wear and tear on the unit. If you know your average repair costs, then you basically set the reward to be, if you save me these repair costs, I'll give you a fraction of that savings as reward. Another big one is notifying the landlord in advance of your decision to stay another year, to renew, or to leave. And then we actually help automate pitching them a renewal offer, right? If it's gonna cost you $1,000 for that person to leave the unit, you should offer them a reward of less than your fixed cost to stick around. So we help automate the process of giving them a timely notification, but also pitch them a renewal offer, all the things we can do to keep your costs as low as possible.
How long have you been doing this?
Yeah, so I started in 2020. We did a lot of market research, and then we decided to have that starter portfolio here in the Valley in 2021. And we basically studied the effects and started building technology around the solution. And we came out of stealth in late 21 and then started selling to the B2B partners in 22. We've been trying to maintain 100% growth quarter over quarter throughout 22.
One other question here. I used to have a rental property and it's pain in the butt.
It is.
Are you gonna have the inspectors actually going and checking those homes and making sure they're doing what they're supposed to do, or how are you gonna keep them, on their toes, I guess?
Yeah, so one of the advantages of multifamily is they already have a lot of that data in their enterprise systems, but they don't do a good job of pulling that data out for timely reporting. Because we're API wizards, we basically can pull out the data and actually make it actionable. The other thing is we're very savvy around other partners that we can work with. So one called Foxy AI is helping us, if the renter takes pictures of their unit, it can auto-detect damage and even the cost of the damage. So where there is new technology out there, we're actually able to embed it in our platform and save you the trouble. If you want to stop visiting a site and just have somebody take a video and it automatically detects the damage.
So who are your customers?
Our customers are right now are the business to business, people who have more than 1,000 units, because if we create a great relationship, then we can grow faster through them to get to that 10,000.
How do you charge them for it?
Yeah, so we charge them up to 1% of the projected rent, right? But again, because we're making money from the rewards themselves by holding them, we can actually offer discounts to early partners. And then they see, oh, I'm earning 9% more, and now they're eager to lock in that long-term contract.
Do you expect them to repair minor things like plumbing or electrical and stuff without reporting?
I think for the most part, we only expect those things that you would normally expect in terms of the lease expectations. But I'll give you one example. Having them take a photo and identify the main water cutoff valve is something that if anyone's rented before is a huge issue. If they only notice that water is flowing and they don't know how to stop it, and you've got to get someone from somewhere else on site, that's compounding your costs immediately. So it's sort of like the most important triage elements, like cutting off that water valve, messing with the breaker box, those kinds of things where if they're comfortable, they do it, they can save you a lot of money. And that's more about training and education.
Who's doing that triage?
Yeah, so in that scenario, so for example, the same way that we have a gamified app, we can say like, take a photo of your water cutoff valve. And they're going and they're training themselves before there's a problem. When they're getting used to their unit, they go and identify that. And they can identify the main water cutoff valve, which is sometimes outside if they're in a duplex type unit, or it might be the local one to the toilet, so they can cut off that one as well. So this is actually part of like education and onboarding that's currently not done until there's a problem and they're just screaming about water pouring everywhere, right? So a lot of what we can do is proactive to help reduce your costs. And we customize it per property. So for each landlord, we can tailor that.
And so each renter has the app on their phone.
Correct. Yep.
And then the properties onboard them with the app. So
Yes.
they're doing that work.
Yeah, we can get the roster of all the residents and send invite codes ourselves, which is often faster than asking the property manager to do it. So we like to automate things so that the property manager doesn't have to do anything.
So really, if you grow fast enough, big enough, you brand it. Because you don't have a lot of proprietary uniqueness, do you?
We do in the sense that we're the only ones in the market that are investing in resident wealth building. So there is consumer loyalty is the first play. There are some things we're doing with the financial technology that's novel, that is patentable at the right time. And we do increase our legal spend as we raise more money. So our lawyers do advise us on the right time. There's a particular technology we want to use to prove that people are actually building wealth and that they're actually having better life outcomes because no competitor can match that. There's some things we're doing that would be proprietary. Because there's ESG dollars that can go into this type of stuff as well.
One more question, time for one more question.
How do you go about seeking new prospective multifamily owners?
Yeah, so we have a pretty robust funnel. At first it was just word of mouth. A lot of startup advisors and investors put their money in as LPs in big funds. So we got a lot of word of mouth conversations. What we found is, even though we want to go to the hardest pure profit capitalists and tell them they're going to make a lot of money, ironically, the impact folks are most interested in trying this out. So we ended up finding a great group of people. If we have links to our investor updates and some of the materials I sent. We've got a great group out of Dallas called Veritas Impact Partners. That includes Tom Bacon, now of Civicap, formerly of Lionstone. These are some of Texas' biggest and most successful developers. They've actually realized we built our wealth on these families. Oh my God, we should invest in them. But they like our approach to use free market solutions. So they're working with us to create that really 20,000 plus portfolio of units that we can grow through. So.
Thank you.